So we have to establish the horizon line. We're going to set it way up here.
Okay.
All right. Now, this is a vanishing point, and this is a vanishing point. Okay. Notice they're off of our page.
Right.
Because if they were brought in, it would super exaggerate everything. Now we're going to set this so that we're really looking down on our table. Now we can do our table a number of ways. We can just put it as a straight corner. We can just say there's no table and this is the edge of it, but that's really boring.
Right.
So why don't we make our table like this? We're going to take it and we're going to put it way up here, and then okay, now so we don't get confused. That's now the edge of our table.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now the horizon line, again, is up there for reference. So we have objects. Well, we have a book. Okay, so where are we going to put our book? Well, why don't we put our book here? Okay. Hi.
Am I able to do my classes today?
After I get done with her, I need to see Paul, then I can get with you. Now. We're going to take that. I'll move that off that way. Now. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a long straight edge?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now you can. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is move this over and try to keep it back in line.
Right.
And then there now. So we want here.
Because the way you were doing it, put all that hand like that and trying to pull it up. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like anything else.
Notice, I'm building it out geometrically with a straight edge first. Okay, a lot like you're doing with the room.
Right.
So we build this out, and then now see we have one book. Let's hold on the one underneath.
Okay.
Now we're going to come back and let's take a look next at the bottle.
Right.
Okay. So you have the bottle there. Well, to build the bottle, you have to build the base, right? So it's bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. Good. And let's put the bottle here. Okay? So I'm going to put in one line. And I'm going to put in another line. Okay? Now, I'm going to put this in. And then I'm going to put that in. You see? Now that's a little bit far out. Need to bring it in a little bit. It's not quite a square. We want it to be kind of square. Okay? Alright, so this is going to be the area where the bottom of our bottle sits. I still feel like that's a bit big. And see, that's the great thing. We're doing this in a 8H.
Right.
So it's all very light. And really, how do you get it square? Well, what you want are these 2 points to be directly above one another. Does that make sense? Now that I have that, I go, and I can approximate this, halfway, 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 and halfway. Okay? Which then gives me curve, 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 and curve. You see? So now what I've really done, and the one I really want to focus on, is from here to about here, the visible area of the curve.
Right.
Because when I put the water bottle in, And see, I can use that horizon line for kind of keeping these straight up. Now, as with any of the Dasani there, they're going to have a point where they start coming in. So I can establish this really by finding my point and then from that point we want to get straight up that line. This makes sense? Mm-hmm. Now, so really, from here to this point is what I'm looking for. So I can create the proper, because as this moves up, this is eventually going to become a straight line, right?
Right.
So, hey, Eddie. So now we know that curves, right? Mm-hmm. And the bottle itself curves. Now, because this is a vertical aspect, we just curve it the way it should be curved. Okay?
Okay.
Now, here's the fun part. As it goes over the horizon line, the thing we have to look for is this. See how that goes out, and then it's going to go again. It has to cross that same point to be across that center line, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's like that, then we know that's crossing over. But here's the trick. Now we look at the top one. You see? Mm-hmm. So that has to curve, which is effectively over. You see? Mm-hmm. So. Makes sense. We can bring this up. We have to do the same. Now you would think, oh, I got to lay out all these lines. Well, you can. Or you can say the curve of this, because it's close enough, we can just reuse a similar curve.
Right.
And it's really not going to be that noticeable. Maybe flatten it just a little. All right. Mm-hmm. And then, does all this make sense?
Yes.
And then I can use that curve since it's that close. And I can use this curve since it's that close. And then there's our label. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. At these points where it's square is where if you wanted to add in the, how they have that little divot there.
Right.
So there. So now we've added in a water bottle. Make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, so now we got water bottle. Next up, we need shoes. Okay, well, shoes, again, you're going to build geometrically. So let's go ahead and figure out length on the shoes then. So let's see here. You're what, a size 6, size 7? Mm-hmm. Don't ask me how I know that. I just
know.
Yeah. Considering my wife is a size 3.
Oh, really?
Size 3 or size 4, yeah. She usually has to go with like the kids' size.
Yeah.
But she's 4'10", so. So let's go there, okay?
Okay.
And now for shoe 1, let's get it. Now I know I'm squaring stuff off. We're going to have something that doesn't function, one of these things is not like the other.
Right.
And that's going to be your next shoe.
Okay.
So this is shoe 1. Let's draw it with everything else. Okay? Well, then that means we know that with a shoe, if we look at and consider how a shoe is done, this is where a little bit of your imagination has to come in. We know that the toe of the shoe may really connect here instead of center, right?
Right.
So that means it curves over, touches somewhere in there, that'll do, but then curves out, right? Mm-hmm. So rather than doing it center, you do it off center because that's the way it's made.
Right.
All right, now a shoe usually comes in, but if the toe is here, we know it's going to meet here and it should meet back here, meaning you've got to create a curve. So you divide this really into almost 3.
Right.
Okay? So that curves in. Now, we're not even going to see this part. We're just doing it to get a sense of the shape, perhaps, of the shoe. Okay? All right, so now we have a shape of the shoe. But we can use this curve that goes over and cut that across. All right? And then we can use this to cut in. You see? Now this, we can bring all the way down. Now I know it's probably going to be a little more pointed than that, and that's fine. Now, see this curve? Same curve. And look, you see? So. That makes sense? And then we have the sole, so you have an extra line that just kind of goes around. So we have a shoe. Good. Given which side this is in the design, I'm going to just put a curve here. And that's where that stitching is.
Right.
Okay. So we have that shoe. Now, ready for the next shoe? The next shoe to drop. And here's the jerk with this shoe. It's going to have its own set of vanishing points because it's not functioning with everything else. It's going to get its own set. Remember I said you can have multiple. So we're going to do one object different. And we're going to make this shoe, I'm going to put one of the vanishing points here. And I think I'm going to put the other one right here. Okay? Now by doing that, what does that mean? Well, that means that when I put this down, and then I put this down, and then I take this and I put it here, and then I'm going to bring it way over in here. Yeah, that's good. Alright, so now I have an object that's functioning a little bit different than everything else. So, it's going to have to be longer, so that means I need to bring it out to there. See? And then, if this one's here, that one's there. Make sense? Alright, so that's the big toe. That comes around. It's going to have the curve somewhere in there. That's right. And this one's this way, right? Remember, I just did the outline.
Right.
Just like I did there. Do the curve. Now, cuts around.
I like Mr. Natural and Yellow Dog and Zap and the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
Don't you want to take front view? So if that's on the interior, and the exterior, it's out here, so it comes across there. Okay, and then, see that curve? That curve right there?
Right.
I'm going to do it right here, same curve. Notice that it leads to this point. The point where the shoe would disappear and this end would begin creates an implied line between there. So. So, and then now we'll 2 lines. Yeah. See? Now, so now it moves off in a different direction than the other objects, but still functions the way it should.
Right.
Make sense? So now we have that. Now there's an apple. So an apple is going to function, let's say our apple functions with everything else. Well, then that means that you just designate its space. can even maybe make a cube. See?
Mm-hmm.
So here's my cube. And back towards our vanishing point. Okay. Okay. So there. And now, if I know that this is my kind of doing it approximately where those lines go in.
Mm-hmm.
Cell phone simple. Think you know how to make one
Yes.
of those? Yeah, I mean, you seriously just head back towards your vanishing point,
Right.
head back, and then boom.
Got it.
And then, sunglasses can get tricky, but, you can work them in there. You cannot. You got plenty of objects, right?
Right.
You got so many, you could even bring your table in if you wanted. Say that's just giving us too much room, so we're going to just cut
Bring
that
it in.
end off, and then there we go.
Okay.
You see?
Uh-huh.
The writing of the Dasani, here's the trick to that. You have your curve, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to put in a curve, you're going to put in your curve, and then you do the letters following.
So right across the road over there, he'll be emerging from the trees in just a second. Oh, there he goes.
Notice how I'm using the line. That's all, right? So, that's there. And then blah, blah, blah. And all like that. Makes sense? Now, let's talk about value.
Okay.
Here's the trick. Determine your light source. Where's it at? If we say the light source is going to be a lamp that's over here, we're just going to put a mark right here. Now, the light source doesn't have to be on the horizon line.
Right.
The light source could be here. It could be at any given point. Just so we can avoid some confusion, I'm going to actually move the light source so it's a little bit lower.
Okay.
So this is light source. Here's a trick to that. If this is where the light is coming from, then what you're dealing with, now I have a lot of different lines protruding, going this way, going that way. So I think for this one, I might go with just a slightly darker.
Okay.
So you go to the edges of the objects. All right, where the edge would be.
A couple of weeks ago, he was walking home from the Hummingbird. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. Now Buffalo's got tattoos all over him, long curly hair, pretty good ears. He's walking up by the hospital and he decides he's hungry. So he came into McDonald's in the hospital. So he goes to the hospital dining room and buys a piece of pie. Now, it's going to look
We know this is where the edge is, so we're just going to go ahead and say.
a skateboarding punk walking through the hospital with just a piece of pie.
Okay. The square object.
Nobody really goes to the hospital because they like the pie. And boy, you're right. Well,
Now, the bottle. Here's the fun thing about the bottle. It goes that way, right? Well, that's all fine and dandy. But here's the thing. We got to bring this line up so it's in kind of a straight line with this. So we know it's going to hit right there. So I'm using, really I need to use the, so we bring it up there, and then now it comes off of that. So that that goes that way, that goes that way. There's the shoe. You follow all that? Mm-hmm. Now, watch. There's a curve here. Whatever this curve is, this is light. It flips. Same degree of curve,
It's just opposite way.
but flipped over. There's a curve here, but it's got to be flipped. It's got to be same degree of curve, but opposite. Same thing goes right here. Same degree of curve. Light comes down. Now in this case, see, it can duplicate. So there's that. And then, so, this curves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this comes in. We got that curve, but we're not going to see it. It's blocked by the apple. That's
Right.
fine. We saw this come down, so it came down there. So whatever this curve is, opposite right there. Okay. The apple. The apple moves away. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to figure this curve gets laid down, but it's going pretty far out, so it's got to come all the way up, really, until they meet. Now notice, given the direction of the light, notice how the shadows start getting longer.
Right.
Okay. Given the direction of this light and where it's at, shadows got to get longer. The apple, on the other hand, I mean, it really goes out there. And then it's going to come up and it's going to hit this object, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then it's going to come back down. Curve, got it?
Mm-hmm.
Water bottle. Water bottle skips up, so your shadow's in this area. Box, light, boom. Easy enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our shadows now exist. Oh, see the shoe?
Mm-hmm.
Forgot about it. From the light, and so that means it's gonna, yeah. You got to think about how it would react.
Right.
So the shadow in this case then covers that area, covers this side of the shoe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to figure some of it, you know, it's really going to curve around whatever that curve is right here. Okay. So our shadow then is here, shoots out to here. This making sense so far? And see, like here, might catch a little bit of a glimpse, but all this in here now. Yeah, there's the curve of the shoe, so curve of the shoe, and then that means that. See that curve?
Mm-hmm.
Duplicate it. You see?
Mm-hmm.
See, there's going to be a little bit down in here, a little bit on this side.
This is a. And it's cheaper. It's like you pay what, 200 something bucks for Intuos, and I paid 80 for this.
So what do? You just like draw on it and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, just like.
Can you get Bluetooth in here?
And wireless ones, but I think they have the little thing like on the mouse.
Oh, the adapter piece.
I mean, like just go.
This is making sense?
Mm-hmm.
The bottle, you got to figure.
And I'm just taking.
So your shadow's going to be kind of to one side of it there. This is all going to be back here.
Just like.
Yeah, so.
Kind of like
Now, you'll want to come back in then and use, say, a standard eraser
It's like I'm just
to
reading
take
what
out
it
any harder or harsher lines that you have that are darker than the shadow itself.
Right.
Make sense? So you take those out so that it fades better. And then
And like the story was that they were like one day, and the story was they had gone hunting that weekend and she forgot to take it out of her car.
Very easily could have been the case.
see? Darken up the edge of the table. Remember we had changed it.
Right.
Yeah, I was pissed. I was beyond pissed when I opened my locker and there was like a stack behind my, clothes and everything for weightless. I was like, you guys are kidding me.
Book.